What would you do if your own family kicked you out of a restaurant for looking unsuccessful, only to discover that you actually owned the entire building? Tonight, I'm about to watch my family's world completely fall apart when they realize the daughter they've been ignoring for 30 years just became their worst nightmare. This is the story of how one dinner reservation became the most expensive mistake my family ever made. My name is Allison Porter. I just turned 30, and tonight I got kicked out of my own mother's anniversary dinner because apparently I didn't look successful enough. Funny how people who know the least about your life think they can measure your worth at first glance. Right now, I'm standing in front of my bathroom mirror in my small apartment holding this simple black dress. Nothing fancy, no designer labels, just clean lines and my grandmother's pearl necklace that she left me when I was 16. The same necklace my sister Rachel once called costume jewelry at a family brunch. I've been staring at my reflection for about 10 minutes now, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm dreading tonight. My parents are celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary at some upscale restaurant downtown, and I already know exactly how this is going to go. My sister Rachel will show up in her $1,000 blazer talking about her latest case at the law firm. My brother Ethan will flash his Rolex and mention his new BMW. And me? Well, I'll be the family disappointment who works at a bookstore. At least that's what they think I do. My phone buzzes, and I see Mia's name pop up. She's my best friend from college, and honestly the only person who knows the real story about my life. I swipe to answer. "Hey girl, you getting ready for the family circus tonight?" I laugh despite myself. "You know me too well. I'm literally having a stare down with this dress right now." "The black one, Ali, you look gorgeous in that dress. And you know what? You're going to walk into that restaurant tonight and you're going to remember who you really are." Easy for you to say. You don't have to sit through 2 hours of Rachel explaining why corporate law is saving the world while Ethan shows everyone photos of his latest vacation. Mia's quiet for a second. Then she says something that stops me cold. "Ali, when are you going to tell them the truth?" The truth. God, where do I even start with the truth? Mia, we've talked about this. If they can't love me when they think I'm nobody, why would I want their love when they find out I'm somebody? Because maybe they deserve a chance to surprise you. I want to believe that. I really do. But when you've spent 29 years watching your parents' faces light up for your siblings' achievements, while your own accomplishments get a polite nod and a quick subject change, you learn to protect yourself. "Look, I need to finish getting ready. I'll call you after, okay?" "Ali, wait. Just remember something tonight. You built something incredible. You're helping thousands of kids get better educations. You're changing lives every single day. Whether your family sees that or not doesn't change the fact that it's true." After we hang up, I look at myself in the mirror again. Mia's right about one thing. I did build something incredible. EduWave isn't just some startup. We're revolutionizing how underfunded schools access educational technology. We've got contracts with over 300 school districts across 12 states. Last month, Forbes called us the quiet giant of edtech, but my family thinks I alphabetize books for a living. I slip on the black dress and fasten my grandmother's pearls. In about an hour, I'll walk into that restaurant and my family will look right through me. They'll seat me at the far end of the table next to whoever they consider least important. Rachel will dominate the conversation with stories about her latest legal victory. Ethan will find a way to mention his salary at least 3 times. My mother will beam at both of them like they hung the moon. And I'll sit there smiling politely, pretending it doesn't hurt. But here's what they don't know. Here's what nobody in that restaurant will know tonight. The building they're celebrating in, I own it. The charity gala they're bragging about attending last month, I organized it. The successful daughter they wish they had. She's been sitting right in front of them this whole time. I grab my small black purse and my keys. Time to go play the role they've cast me in. The underachiever, the disappointment, the one who just never quite figured it out. What they're about to learn is that sometimes the person you underestimate the most is the one who's been quietly changing the world while you weren't paying attention. Tonight's going to be interesting. You know, as I'm driving through downtown, I can't help but think about how we got here. how I became the invisible child in a family that prides itself on being seen. Let me paint you a picture of the Porter family hierarchy. At the top, we have Rachel. She's 32, graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law, and currently works at one of Chicago's most prestigious corporate law firms. Rachel has never met a mirror she didn't like, or a conversation she couldn't dominate. She drives a Tesla Lives in a penthouse downtown and somehow manages to work her Ivy League credentials into every single conversation. I'm talking every conversation. She once mentioned Harvard while ordering coffee. Then, there's Ethan, my younger brother. He's 28, but you'd think he was the crown prince of America the way my parents talk about him. He's a plastic surgeon, which means he spends his days making rich people look younger while driving his brand new BMW and wearing watches that cost more than most people's cars. Ethan's got this effortless charm that makes everyone love him instantly. He's the golden boy who can do no wrong. And then there's me, the middle child who somehow became the afterthought. My mother, Susan Porter, used to be a small-town real estate agent before she married my dad. But over the years, she's transformed herself into this polished socialite who's more concerned with appearances than anything else. She's on 3 different charity boards, hosts elaborate dinner parties, and measures success by how many zeros are in your bank account and how many important people know your name. My father, James, built a construction company from nothing. He started with just a pickup truck and a toolbox, and by the time I was in high school, Porter Construction was building half the office complexes in the city. But success changed him. He sold the company 5 years ago for an amount that set our family up for life, and now he spends most of his time quietly managing investments and attending social functions he clearly doesn't enjoy. Here's the thing about growing up as the third-place child. You learn to be invisible. You learn to make yourself small so you don't take up space that belongs to your siblings' achievements. I remember when I was 12, I won a citywide writing contest. I was so excited to tell my parents. I ran into the house with the certificate, and my mom was on the phone with someone talking about Rachel's debate tournament victory. I stood there for 10 minutes holding my award, waiting for her to get off the phone. When she finally did, I showed her the certificate. You know what she said? "That's nice, honey. Can you go tell your sister dinner's ready?" That's nice, honey. 4 words that summed up my entire childhood. When I was 16, I started a tutoring program at my high school that helped struggling students raise their grades. It was completely volunteer, and I spent hours every week working with kids who needed help. The program was so successful that the school district wanted to expand it to other schools. I was getting recognized by teachers. Parents were thanking me, and I felt like I was actually making a difference. You want to know how my family celebrated this achievement? They didn't. Rachel had just gotten into Harvard, and Ethan had made varsity football as a sophomore. My tutoring program got mentioned once at dinner right before my dad launched into a 20-minute story about Ethan's winning touchdown. By the time I graduated high school, I had learned the family rules. Rachel was the brilliant one. Ethan was the charming one, and I was the one who tried hard but never quite measured up. College was supposed to be different. I went to Northwestern, studied computer science and education, and for 4 years I felt like I could breathe. I was away from the constant comparisons, away from being measured against my siblings' accomplishments. I thrived. But even then, the family dynamics followed me. When I graduated magna cum laude with a double major, my parents came to the ceremony. Rachel had just made partner at her firm, so the entire graduation dinner turned into a celebration of her promotion instead of my degree. After college, I got a job at a tech consulting firm in downtown Chicago. I was good at it. Really good. I was working with schools, helping them integrate technology into their classrooms, and I loved every minute of it. But the corporate world felt suffocating. All these meetings about quarterly profits when what I really wanted to do was help kids learn. So 3 years ago, I made a decision that my family still talks about like it was a complete mental breakdown. I quit my corporate job to follow my passion. I told them I wanted to work more directly with education, to really make a difference in kids' lives. What I didn't tell them was that I wasn't just quitting to work for someone else. I was quitting to build something of my own. Here's where the story gets interesting, and here's where my family's assumptions started working in my favor. When I told them I was leaving corporate consulting to work in education, they immediately assumed I was taking some low-paying teaching job. When I was vague about the details, they filled in the blanks themselves. Somehow, the story became that I was working part-time at a bookstore. I never corrected them. Why? Because I wanted to see something. I wanted to see if they could love me, respect me, value me when they thought I had nothing to offer but myself. The answer, as you can probably guess, was no. While they thought I was arranging book displays and ringing up customers, I was actually building EduWave. It started in my apartment with just me and a laptop, but I had a vision. I wanted to create AI-enhanced learning tools that could level the playing field for underfunded schools. I wanted to give kids in low-income districts access to the same quality educational technology that rich kids take for granted. I spent 18 months coding, testing, and refining the platform. I used my savings from my corporate job to fund the initial development. I reached out to teachers, principals, and school administrators to understand exactly what they needed. I lived on ramen noodles and worked 16-hour days, but I was building something that mattered. The breakthrough came when I got our first pilot program with a school district in South Chicago. 20 schools, 5,000 students, and within 6 months we saw reading comprehension scores improve by 30% and math scores by 25%. Word spread fast in the education world. Other districts wanted in. Then state education departments started calling. Then venture capital firms started reaching out. Today, EduWave is valued at over $100 million. We've got contracts with school districts in 12 states. We're helping over 200,000 students access personalized learning tools that adapt to their individual needs. Last month, we secured funding to expand internationally. But you know what my family knows about all of this? Nothing. Because every time we get together, they're so busy talking about Rachel's latest case or Ethan's new surgical technique that they never ask me about my life. They never ask what I'm working on, what I care about, or what I've accomplished. They've decided I'm the family failure, and they're not interested in any information that might contradict that narrative. So I let them believe it. I let them think I'm this aimless 30-year-old who never figured out how to be successful like her siblings. And honestly, it's been the most revealing experiment of my life. Because here's what I've learned. When people think you have nothing to offer, they show you exactly who they really are. They show you what they value, what they respect, and what they think makes a person worthy of love and attention. And my family has shown me that their love comes with conditions. Their respect has a price tag. Their attention has to be earned through achievements they deem worthy. Tonight, I'm going to sit through another dinner where they treat me like the consolation prize child. They'll make polite conversation with me for exactly as long as it takes to be socially acceptable, and then they'll turn their attention to the siblings who matter. What they don't know is that the building we're eating in tonight, I own it. The charity gala my mother keeps bragging about attending, I organized it and raised over $2 million for educational initiatives. The successful daughter they wish they had. She's been sitting right across from them this whole time, building an empire while they weren't paying attention. Part of me wonders what will happen when they find out the truth. Will they suddenly see me differently? Will they want to be part of my success? Will they apologize for all the years of treating me like I didn't matter? But honestly, I'm not sure I want to know the answer to those questions. Because if someone can only love you when you're successful, do they really love you at all? We'll find out tonight, I guess. Because something tells me this dinner is going to be very different from what any of us are expecting. So here I am, pulling into the valet parking at the Sable Room, and I've got to tell you the irony of this moment isn't lost on me. This restaurant sits on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. It's the kind of place where a single dinner costs more than most people spend on groceries in a month. And I own the building. But let me back up a little bit, because this morning was a trip down memory lane that I really didn't need. I woke up thinking about the last family gathering we had. It was Ethan's birthday party 6 months ago, and I made the mistake of mentioning that EduWave had just signed a major contract with the Illinois State Department of Education. Of course, I didn't use those exact words. I just said I was excited about a new project at work that was going to help a lot of schools. You know what my mother said? "That's nice, dear. Ethan, tell everyone about your new surgical technique." And just like that, the conversation moved on. 20 years of that treatment will teach you to keep your mouth shut about your accomplishments. Or, like 2 years ago, when I tried to explain to my father that I was working on something big, something that could really make a difference. He patted me on the shoulder and said, "Honey, not everyone can be an entrepreneur like me. There's nothing wrong with a simple job." A simple job. As if helping kids get better educations was somehow beneath the mighty Porter family standards. But this morning, getting ready for tonight, all those memories came flooding back. And I had this moment where I almost called my mother and told her everything. I almost picked up the phone and said, "Mom, you need to know something about your daughter. She's not the failure you think she is." But then I stopped myself. Because here's the thing. If I have to prove my worth to earn their love, then it's not really love, is it? So instead, I put on my simple black dress, the one that Rachel once said made me look like I was going to a funeral instead of a family dinner. I clasped my grandmother's pearls around my neck, the ones that my mother keeps hinting I should upgrade to something more modern. I looked in the mirror, and I made a decision. Tonight, I'm going as myself. Not as the successful CEO they don't know about. Not as the disappointment they think I am. Just as me. And we'll see what happens. My phone buzzes with a text from Mia. "Remember who you are, not who they expect you to be." God, I love that woman. She's been my anchor through all of this family drama. The valet takes my keys, and I have to suppress a smile when he says, "Good evening, Miss Porter. Wonderful to see you again." He's probably wondering why I'm driving my modest Honda instead of arriving in the usual style, but he's too professional to ask. I walk through the lobby of my own building, past the marble columns and the crystal chandeliers, and I think about the first time I came here 3 years ago. I was looking for office space for EduWave, and the real estate agent showed me this building. The moment I walked in, I knew this was it. Not just for office space, but for everything. 6 months later, I bought the entire building. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor gives me a few minutes to mentally prepare. Through the glass walls, I can see the city sprawling out below us, and I think about all the schools down there that are using EduWave's technology. All the kids who are getting better educations because of something I built. But tonight, I'm just Ali, the bookstore employee, the family disappointment. The elevator doors open and I step into the sable room. This place is stunning, soft lighting, elegant decor, and that incredible view of the city skyline. The maitre d' sees me and his face immediately lights up. "Ms. Porter, what a pleasure to see you again. Your usual table?" I hold up a hand with a gentle smile. "Actually, Marcus, I'm here with my family tonight. They've made a reservation under Porter, but it's my parents' anniversary dinner. Could you do me a huge favor?" "Of course, anything. Could you please not mention EduWave or my connection to the building tonight? It's complicated family stuff, and I'd really appreciate the discretion." Marcus nods immediately. "Absolutely, Ms. Porter. We'll make sure everything is handled professionally. Should I let the kitchen know you're here? Chef Morrison has been working on a new seasonal menu he'd love your feedback on." "That's sweet of him, but let's just keep everything low-key tonight, okay? I'm just a guest at my parents' anniversary dinner." "Understood completely. We'll take excellent care of your family." As I wait in the bar area for my family to arrive, I can't help but look around at this restaurant that I've helped build into one of the city's premier dining destinations. When I bought this building, the Sable Room was struggling. They had great food but terrible management and no vision for what they could become. I worked with them to completely redesign the space, brought in new management, and helped them secure partnerships with local farms and suppliers. Now, They're booked solid 6 months in advance and have a waiting list longer than most people's grocery lists. But tonight, I'm just the middle child waiting for her family to show up. My phone buzzes again. It's a text from Rachel. Running 10 minutes late. Traffic is insane. Hope you didn't get there too early and embarrass us by looking lost. Even her text messages are condescending. I order a glass of wine and settle in to wait. The bartender, Jenny, knows me well, but she follows my lead and treats me like any other customer. I appreciate that level of professionalism. As I'm sitting there, I notice the couple at the table next to the bar. They're probably in their 60s, dressed elegantly, clearly celebrating something special. The woman keeps looking around the restaurant with this expression of pure joy, and the man keeps reaching across the table to hold her hand. That's what love looks like. That's what I want for myself someday. Someone who looks at me like I'm the most important person in the room, not because of what I've accomplished, but because of who I am. I pull out my phone and scroll through some work emails to pass the time. There's an update from our development team about the new AI tutoring module we're launching next month. There's a message from the superintendent in Detroit thanking us for the incredible results they're seeing with our reading comprehension tools. There's an invitation to speak at the National Education Technology Conference next spring. All of this success, all of these lives we're changing, and my family has no idea. My phone buzzes with another text, this time from Ethan. Just pulled up. See you in a few. Try not to order the most expensive thing on the menu. He thinks he's being funny. He has no idea that I could buy this entire restaurant without checking my bank balance. I finish my wine and take a deep breath. In about 5 minutes, my family's going to walk through those doors. They're going to see me sitting here in my simple dress with my grandmother's pearls, and they're going to make all their usual assumptions about my life. They're going to treat me like the family afterthought. They're going to make polite conversation while they wait for opportunities to talk about themselves. They're going to make subtle digs about my career choices and my lifestyle. And I'm going to let them, because this is the test. This is me finding out whether they're capable of seeing value in a person beyond their job title and bank account. Part of me is hoping they'll surprise me. Part of me is hoping that tonight will be different, that maybe they'll actually ask me about my life, my dreams, my goals. Maybe they'll show some genuine interest in who I am as a person. But honestly, after 30 years of evidence to the contrary, I'm not holding my breath. I can hear voices in the lobby now. Rachel's laugh unmistakably loud and attention-seeking. Ethan's voice probably charming the hostess. My mother's carefully modulated tone as she gives instructions about something. Here we go, time to be the invisible daughter at my own parents' anniversary dinner, in my own restaurant, in my own building. What they don't know is that tonight everything is about to change. Because while I can control a lot of things in my life, I can't control how the staff here knows me. I can't control the fact that this is my world they're stepping into. And something tells me that by the end of this dinner, my family is going to learn some things about me that are going to turn their entire understanding of our family upside down. The question is, what are they going to do with that information? I guess we're about to find out. And here they come, the Porter family in all their glory. Rachel sweeps in first, wearing what I can only describe as a power suit that probably costs more than most people's rent. Her hair is perfectly styled, her makeup is flawless, and she's wearing the kind of jewelry that screams, "I'm important and I want everyone to know it." She barely glances in my direction as she strides past the bar. Ethan follows behind her, and I swear this guy gets more pretentious every time I see him. Designer everything, from his shoes to his watch to his perfectly styled hair. He's got that swagger that says, "I'm God's gift to the world," and he's working it. My parents bring up the rear. My mother looks absolutely stunning as always. She's wearing this elegant cream-colored dress that probably came from some boutique I've never heard of, and she's carrying herself like she owns the place. Which ironically, she doesn't. I do. My father looks uncomfortable in his expensive suit like he always does at these fancy events. He'd rather be at home watching football, but he's learned to play the part of the successful businessman at social gatherings. I stand up from the bar and walk over to greet them. "Hi everyone. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad." My mother gives me the kind of hug you give to distant relatives at funerals. Quick, polite, and completely devoid of warmth. Ali, dear, you made it. That's it. No, you look nice. No, we're so glad you're here. Just acknowledgement that I showed up. Rachel looks me up and down with barely concealed disapproval. Oh, Ali, that dress, it's so simple. Didn't you want to dress up for Mom and Dad's special night? I bite back my first response, which would have been to point out that my simple dress costs more than she probably thinks I make in a month. Instead, I just smile. I thought it was appropriate for what a funeral. Rachel laughs at her own joke, and Ethan chuckles along like the good little follower he is. Ethan jumps in with his own contribution to the evening's humiliation. Ali's still working retail, right? At that bookstore I keep meaning to stop by, but I'm never in that part of town. He says, that part of town like I work in some kind of war zone instead of one of the city's nicest neighborhoods. Something like that, I say, quietly. My mother steps closer and lowers her voice. Ali, dear, would you mind staying by the bar for a few more minutes? We need to check on the seating arrangement, and I don't want to ruin the flow of the evening. There it is. The family's way of saying, we don't want you around for the important conversations. I watch as they approach the hostess stand, and I can hear my mother explaining their reservation. The hostess, Sarah, is one of the newer staff members, so she doesn't know me personally. She's checking her system and nodding along as my mother talks about their special anniversary celebration. Right this way, Mr. and Mrs. Porter, we have the private dining room prepared for your party. They start walking toward the private dining area, and naturally, they assume I'm following behind like some kind of afterthought. But when we reach the entrance to the private dining room, Sarah stops me. I'm sorry, miss, but I need to check that you're on the guest list for this private event. My family keeps walking, not even noticing that I've been stopped. Sarah is checking her tablet, running her finger down the list of approved guests. I don't see your name here. Are you part of the Porter party? Before I can answer, my mother turns around and notices the holdup. She walks back over with this expression of barely contained irritation. Is there a problem? Just checking the guest list, ma'am. Your daughter's name isn't showing up in our system. My mother's face goes through this interesting progression of emotions. First confusion, then embarrassment, then something that looks almost like panic. Oh, well, she's family, of course she's invited. Sarah looks uncertain. I understand, ma'am, but we have strict policies about our private dining rooms. If someone's not on the guest list, I need to get approval from my manager. And this is where things get really interesting. Because Sarah calls over the security guard to help sort out the situation. His name is David, and he's worked security in this building for about 2 years now, which means he definitely knows who I am. David walks over, ready to handle what he assumes is a standard gate-crashing situation. But the moment he sees me, his entire demeanor changes. Ms. Porter, his voice is uncertain, like he can't quite believe what he's seeing. Madam CEO! The word CEO hangs in the air like a bomb that hasn't exploded yet. My family turns to stare at David, then at me, then back at David. Rachel's mouth is slightly open. Ethan looks like someone just told him the earth is flat. My parents are frozen in place. Before I can say anything, David is speaking into his radio. Marcus, we need you at the private dining room entrance, now. Within 30 seconds, Marcus appears, followed by Jenny from the bar, followed by Chef Morrison, who apparently heard the commotion from the kitchen. And here's the thing about staff who respect you. When they think you're being disrespected, they take it personally. Marcus immediately takes charge of the situation. Ms. Porter, I am so sorry about this confusion. We had no idea this was your family. Sarah, this is Ms. Porter, the owner of the building. Sarah's face goes white. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Chef Morrison steps forward. Ms. Porter, I can prepare something special for your family if you'd like. We just got in some beautiful lobster this morning. But the real showstopper comes when the restaurant owner, Michael Chen, appears. Michael and I have worked together closely over the past 3 years to make the Sable Room what it is today. When he sees me standing there with my family looking like they've seen a ghost, he immediately understands that something important is happening. Ms. Porter, what a wonderful surprise. Your usual table is ready if you prefer, but I see you're here with guests tonight. Shall I escort your family to the private dining room? My mother finds her voice first. Your usual table, Michael smiles warmly. Oh yes, Ms. Porter dines with us regularly. In fact, she's been instrumental in making the Sable Room what it is today. We wouldn't be here without her vision and support. Rachel's voice comes out as barely a whisper. Vision and support. And this is where Michael, bless his heart, delivers the knockout punch without even realizing it. Absolutely. When Ms. Porter bought this building 3 years ago, the Sable Room was struggling. She worked with us to completely redesign the space brought in. New management helped us secure partnerships with local suppliers. And of course, the charity gala she organized here last month raised over $2 million for educational initiatives. She's quite remarkable. I watch my family's faces as this information sinks in. Rachel looks like she's been slapped. Ethan's jaw is literally hanging open. My mother appears to be having some kind of existential crisis. My father is staring at me like he's seeing me for the first time in his life. The silence stretches on for what feels like an eternity. The entire restaurant staff is standing there, waiting to see what happens next. Other diners have started to notice the commotion. Finally, I break the silence. I'm still willing to join you for dinner. If I'm still welcome. My mother fumbles for words. Of course, of course. It was just a silly mistake. Right? Just a silly joke. Ethan mutters something under his breath that sounds like sister humor. I look at him directly. Right. Humor. Marcus steps in to smooth things over. Why don't we get everyone seated? I think there might have been some confusion about the guest list, but we can sort all of that out. As we walk toward the private dining room, I can hear my family whispering behind me. Rachel is asking rapid-fire questions that my parents clearly can't answer. Ethan keeps saying, "What the hell," under his breath. My mother is making these little gasping sounds like she can't quite catch her breath. We're seated at a beautiful round table with that incredible view of the city. The staff brings out champagne and starts explaining the evening's special menu. But nobody's really listening to the server. Everyone's staring at me. Rachel is the first to recover enough to speak. Ali, what just happened out there? I take a sip of my champagne and look around the table at these people who have spent 30 years treating me like I don't matter. These people who just tried to exclude me from their celebration because they were embarrassed by my appearance. These people who have never once asked me about my dreams, my goals, or my accomplishments. What happened is that the staff here knows me. That's all. Knows you, how Ethan's voice is sharp, almost accusatory. I could tell them everything right now. I could explain about EduWave, about the hundreds of schools we're helping, about the millions of dollars we've raised for educational initiatives. I could tell them about the building ownership, about the business partnerships, about the speaking engagements and the awards and the recognition from people who actually matter. But you know what? I'm not going to make it that easy for them. I come here sometimes. Rachel's getting frustrated. Ali, that man called you the owner of the building. What does that mean? It means I own the building. The simplicity of that statement seems to break something in Rachel's brain. You own this building, this entire building. Yes. How do I bought it? Ethan leans forward. With what money you work at a bookstore? And there it is. The moment I've been waiting for. The moment when I get to watch my family realize that everything they thought they knew about me was wrong. Actually, I don't work at a bookstore. I never have. My mother's voice is barely audible. Then what do you do? I take another sip of champagne and look out at the city lights below us. Somewhere down there, in hundreds of schools across multiple states, kids are using technology that I created to get better educations. Teachers are using tools that I designed to help their students succeed. Families are getting opportunities that they never would have had without the work that I've been doing for the past 3 years. Work that my family never bothered to ask about. I run a company called EduWave. We create AI-enhanced learning tools for underfunded schools. We're currently working with over 300 school districts in 12 states. Last month, we were valued at just over $100 million. The silence that follows this statement is deafening. Rachel's face has gone completely pale. Ethan looks like he might throw up. My mother is gripping her champagne glass so tightly I'm worried it might shatter. My father is just staring at me with this expression I can't quite read. $100 million, Rachel repeats slowly. Give or take. And you never told us. I look around the table at these people who raised me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally, who have spent 3 decades making me feel like I wasn't good enough to be part of their family. When would I have told you between the conversations about Rachel's latest case and Ethan's new car? Or maybe during one of those family dinners where you spent 2 hours talking about everything except me? My mother starts to say something, but I hold up my hand. You want to know why I never told you? Because I wanted to see if you could love me when you thought I had nothing to offer. I wanted to see if I mattered to you as a person, not as a resume. I look directly at each of them. And now I know the answer to that question. The server comes over to take our dinner orders, but nobody's looking at their menu. The tension at this table is so thick you could cut it with a knife. This dinner just got very interesting. So here we are. The Porter family anniversary dinner has officially become the most awkward meal in the history of awkward meals. The server has brought out our appetizers, but nobody's eating. We're all just sitting here, staring at our plates while the weight of everything that just happened settles over the table like a thick fog. For the first time in my entire life, I'm sitting next to my father, instead of being relegated to the far end of the table, next to whatever cousin or family friend they deemed least important. It's funny how $100 million valuation suddenly makes you worthy of a better seat. Rachel is the first to break the silence, and I can tell she's trying really hard to sound casual and interested. So, Ali, tell us about your startup. EduWave, right? How did you get started? The way she says startup makes it sound like I'm running a lemonade stand instead of a company that's revolutionizing education technology. But I decide to give her the benefit of the doubt. I started working on it about 4 years ago. I saw how many schools were struggling with outdated technology and limited resources, and I wanted to create something that could level the playing field. That's fascinating, my mother chimes in. But her voice has this forced enthusiasm that makes it clear she's still processing everything. And you've been working on this the whole time. We thought you were working at a bookstore. I finish for her. Yeah, I've been building EduWave this whole time. Ethan leans forward and I can see the wheels turning in his head. So, when you quit your corporate job 3 years ago, you weren't taking some low-paying position in education. You were starting your own company. That's right. And you all assumed what you wanted to assume. I never actually said I worked at a bookstore. You just decided that's what I must be doing because it fit your narrative about me. The silence that follows is deafening. I can see them all thinking back to conversations we've had, trying to remember exactly what I said, versus what they assumed I meant. My father hasn't said a word since we sat down. He's just been looking at me with this expression that I can't quite read. Finally, he clears his throat. Ali, why didn't you ever tell us? It's such a simple question, but it opens up this floodgate of emotions that I've been holding back for years. Would it have mattered, Dad? He looks confused. Of course it would have mattered. Would it? Because I remember when I was 12 and I won that citywide writing contest. I came home so excited to tell you and Mom, and you barely looked up from the newspaper. But when Rachel made varsity debate team, we had a family celebration dinner. I see my mother wince, but I keep going. I remember when I graduated magna cum laude from Northwestern with a double major. Do you remember what we talked about at my graduation dinner, Rachel's promotion to senior associate? The entire meal was about Rachel's career while I sat there with my diploma feeling invisible. My father's face is starting to show some recognition, some memory of those moments. I remember when I tried to tell you about my tutoring program in high school, the one that helped struggling students raise their grades and got expanded to other schools in the district. You listened for about 30 seconds before you started talking about Ethan's football season. I take a breath and look around the table. So yes, Dad, I kept this from you. Because every time I tried to share something I was proud of, something I cared about, it got overshadowed by whatever Rachel or Ethan had accomplished that week. Rachel's voice comes out sharper than I think she intended. So you tested us. You decided to see if we were good enough the parents for you. That hits a nerve and I feel my composure slip for the first time tonight. No, Rachel, I didn't test you. I protected myself because I learned a long time ago that my accomplishments don't matter to this family unless they can compete with yours. That's not fair, Ethan protests. Isn't it? Let me ask you something, Ethan. In the past 3 years, how many times have you asked me about my work? How many times have you asked me what I'm passionate about, what I'm trying to achieve, what my goals are? He opens his mouth to answer, then closes it again. I'll save you the trouble of counting. 0. Not once. None of you have ever asked me about my life beyond polite small talk. But you know what? If that security guard hadn't recognized me tonight, I'd still be standing outside this restaurant wondering why I'm not good enough to be included in my own family's celebration. The table goes completely silent. Even the ambient noise from the restaurant seems to fade away. My father pushes back his chair. Ali, can we talk? Outside. I follow him out to the restaurant's private balcony. The city stretches out below us, millions of lights twinkling in the darkness. It's beautiful, but all I can think about is how many years I've felt like I was standing on the outside, looking in at my own family's life. My father stands at the railing, not looking at me. For a long moment, we just stand there in silence. I failed you, he says finally. I wasn't expecting that. Dad, no. Let me say this. I failed you as a father, and I don't know how to fix it. He turns to look at me, and I can see tears in his eyes. I don't think I've ever seen my father cry. When I was building the construction company, I was terrified every single day that I was going to lose everything, that I was going to fail and my family would suffer for it. So I put all my energy into recognizing the kinds of success that felt safe to me. Traditional success. Visible success. He runs his hand through his hair. Rachel became a lawyer. Safe. Prestigious. Ethan became a doctor. Safe. Prestigious. But you were always different. You were always asking questions. Always trying to solve problems that didn't have obvious solutions. And that scared me. Scared you because I didn't understand what you were trying to do, and I was afraid you were going to end up struggling like I did when I was young. So, instead of trying to understand, instead of supporting you, I ignored it. I figured if I didn't pay attention to the things that worried me about your choices, maybe you'd eventually choose something safer. I feel tears starting in my own eyes. Dad, all I ever wanted was for you to see me, to see what I was trying to build, what I cared about. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. He looks out at the city again. You know what's really pathetic? My daughter is out there changing the world, helping kids get better educations, building something that actually matters, and I've been too stupid and too scared to see it. It's not too late, I hear myself saying. He looks at me with hope in his eyes. Isn't it? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. We stand there for a few more minutes, just looking out at the city. Finally, my father speaks again. Can you tell me about it? About what you've built. I want to understand. So I tell him. I tell him about the schools in South Chicago where kids were 3 grade levels behind in reading until they started using our AI tutoring systems. I tell him about the teacher in Detroit who sent me a handwritten thank you note because our technology helped her reach a student with severe dyslexia for the first time. I tell him about the principal in rural Illinois who cried when she saw her students' test scores improve by 40% in one semester. "You're changing lives," he says quietly. "I'm trying to." "No, Ali, you are. You're changing lives and I'm proud of you. I should have been proud of you all along." When we walk back into the restaurant, the rest of my family is exactly where we left them, sitting in uncomfortable silence around their untouched dinner. My father takes his seat and looks around the table. "I owe my daughter an apology. We all do." Rachel starts to say something, but my father holds up his hand. "We've spent years treating Ali like she didn't matter, like her life wasn't worth our attention. And tonight we found out that our daughter, our sister, has built something incredible. Something that's making the world better. And instead of celebrating that, instead of being proud of her, we're sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves because we didn't know about it." He looks directly at me. "Ali, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've built. I'm proud of the lives you're changing, and I'm ashamed that it took a restaurant staff recognizing you for me to realize how much I've failed you as a father." My mother's voice is barely a whisper. "We all failed you." I look around the table at these people who raised me, who shaped me, who taught me that love was conditional and respect had to be earned through the right kind of achievements. "Maybe we can try again," I say. "Maybe we can figure out how to be a family that actually knows each other." Rachel nods, tears streaming down her face. "I'd like that." Ethan reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. "Me too." For the first time in my adult life, I feel like I'm sitting at a table with my family instead of sitting next to strangers who happen to share my last name. It's not going to fix everything overnight. There are years of hurt feelings and missed opportunities that we'll have to work through. But it's a start. And sometimes that's all you need. 1 week later, my family is standing in the lobby of EduWave headquarters, and I have to admit, watching their faces is pretty entertaining. Our office space takes up 3 floors of a renovated warehouse in the tech district. It's not flashy or pretentious, but it's impressive in a way that actually matters. There are glass conference rooms filled with developers working on code that will help kids learn to read. There are walls covered with thank you letters from teachers and students. There are whiteboards everywhere, covered with equations and diagrams and ideas that could change how education works in this country. Rachel is trying really hard to look like she's not completely blown away, but I can see her taking in every detail. The reception area has a digital display showing real-time data from our partner schools. Reading comprehension improvements, math score increases student engagement metrics. It's all there in living color proof that what we're doing actually works. "Ali, this is incredible," she says, and for the first time in my life, I hear genuine awe in my sister's voice when she's talking about something I've accomplished. My assistant Marcus, not to be confused with the restaurant Marcus, comes over to greet us. "Ms. Porter, your family's here for the tour." "Marcus, I'd like you to meet my parents, James and Susan Porter, and my siblings, Rachel and Ethan." "It's an honor to meet you all." Ms. Porter talks about her family often. I see my mother's eyebrows raise at that. The idea that I talk about them positively is probably surprising given our recent conversation. As we walk through the office, I watch my family really seeing my world for the first time. There are about 60 employees working here, from software developers to education specialists to data analysts. These are smart, passionate people who believe in what we're doing. One of our lead developers, Sarah Kim, comes over to say hello. "Ali, the pilot program in Memphis is showing incredible results. The principals want to expand to all their elementary schools." "That's fantastic. Can you send me the data this afternoon?" "Already in your inbox." After Sarah walks away, Ethan looks at me with something I've never seen in his eyes before. Respect. "Ali, these people really look up to you." We work well together. Everyone here cares about the mission. We stop by the testimonial wall where we display some of the letters and emails we've received from teachers, students, and parents. My mother starts reading them, and I watch her face change as she takes in story after story of kids whose lives have been changed by our technology. There's a letter from a third-grade teacher in Detroit whose student with severe dyslexia learned to read using our adaptive reading program. There's a photo from a high school in rural Mississippi where our math tutoring system helped raise standardized test scores by 50%. There's a video message from a principal in Phoenix thanking us for helping her English language learners catch up with their grade level. These children, my mother says quietly, you're helping all these children. We're helping their teachers help them. That's what makes the difference. We end the tour in my office, which has a wall of windows overlooking the city. It's not ostentatious, but it's clearly the office of someone who's built something important. Rachel sits down in one of the chairs across from my desk. Ali, I owe you an apology that goes way beyond what I said at dinner last week. Rachel, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I've spent years treating you like you were some kind of family charity case. Like you were the sister who never quite figured out how to be successful. And the whole time you were building this, she gestures around the office. You were changing kids' lives while I was, helping corporations avoid paying taxes. Ethan nods. I keep thinking about all the times I made jokes about your job. All the times I acted like I was doing better than you. Because I drive a fancy car and live in an expensive condo, but what you're doing actually matters. My father has been quiet during most of the tour, but now he speaks up. Ali, can I ask you something? What made you want to focus on education? It's a question he should have asked me years ago, but I'm glad he's asking it now. Do you remember when I was tutoring kids in high school? The program that helped struggling students raise their grades? He nods. There was this one kid, Marcus Rodriguez. He was failing everything, and his teachers had basically given up on him. But when I worked with him one-on-one, I realized he wasn't stupid or lazy. He just learned differently. He needed information presented in a way that made sense to his brain. I walk over to the window and look out at the city. I helped Marcus go from failing to getting B's and C's. He graduated, went to community college, and now he's a mechanic with his own shop. But it took a 17-year-old tutor to figure out what trained teachers couldn't see. That's a system failure, not a student failure. So you decided to fix the system, my mother says. I decided to give teachers better tools. If we can create technology that adapts to how each kid learns, we can help a lot more kids like Marcus. Over the next few months, something amazing starts to happen. My family doesn't just apologize for how they treated me. They actually start to change. My father starts mentoring young entrepreneurs through a program at the local university. He says he wants to make sure other parents don't miss their kids' potential the way he missed mine. He's particularly focused on helping founders whose ideas don't fit traditional business models. My mother gets involved with fundraising for public education initiatives. She uses her social connections to organize events that raise money for school districts that can't afford new technology. The same networking skills she used for charity galas are now being directed towards something that actually helps kids learn. Rachel starts taking pro bono cases focused on education rights. She's representing families who are fighting for their kids to get the services they need in public schools. She tells me it's the most meaningful work she's ever done. And Ethan, he starts volunteering his surgical skills for trauma reconstruction cases, working with kids who've been injured in accidents or born with facial deformities. He says he realized he wanted to use his medical training to help people who really need it, not just people who want to look younger. It's funny how one dinner conversation can change everything. 6 months after that night at the Sable Room, we have our first real family gathering. Not a formal anniversary dinner or a birthday celebration where everyone tries to impress each other. Just Sunday brunch at my parents' house where we actually talk to each other like people who care about each other's lives. Rachel tells us about a case she's working on for a family whose autistic son isn't getting the educational support he needs. Ethan shows us photos from a mission trip where he performed surgery on kids with cleft palates. My father talks about a young woman he's mentoring who's building an app to help seniors manage their medications. My mother shares stories from her volunteer work with teachers who are trying to buy basic supplies for their classrooms. And for the first time in my adult life, when they ask me about my work, I can tell they actually want to hear the answer. No one changes overnight. Families don't heal from decades of dysfunction because of one dramatic dinner conversation. But that night at the Sable Room cracked the mirror they'd been using to judge me and maybe themselves. They started seeing that success isn't just about prestigious job titles and expensive cars. They started understanding that the person they'd been overlooking might have been doing something more important than any of them realized. I still own the Sable Room building. I still run EduWave. I still wake up every morning focused on helping kids get better educations. But now I also wake up knowing that my family sees me for who I really am, not for who they thought I should be. The Porter family dynamics aren't perfect. We still have our moments of falling back into old patterns. Rachel still occasionally gets a little competitive about achievements. Ethan still sometimes makes assumptions about people based on appearances. My parents still worry that they damaged our relationships beyond repair. But we're trying. We're actually trying to be a family that knows each other, supports each other, and celebrates each other's real accomplishments, instead of just the ones that look good on paper. You know what the funniest part of this whole story is? They tried to exclude me from my parents' anniversary dinner based on my appearance. They thought I wasn't successful enough, wasn't important enough, wasn't dressed well enough to be part of their celebration. What they didn't realize was that I never needed their table. I had built my own. I had built my own company, my own success, my own impact on the world. I had built relationships with people who valued me for my ideas and my contribution, not for my job title or my bank account. I had built a life that mattered, but you know what's even better than building your own table? Finally having your family ask if they can join you at it. And that's a story worth telling. Have you ever been underestimated by the people closest to you? Drop a comment and let me know your story. If you enjoyed this family drama, hit that subscribe button for more shocking stories of families who learned the hard way that appearances can be deceiving. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.